Chapter 1094. Yiqing Luo was pressured by that burst of energy and her body became unstable as she tumbled down from Chi-Chi's back. Before she could react, Wolf Saint Magic's figure had already enlarged in front of her. His motive? It was to force her and Chi-Chi to separate. Chi-Chi was a sacred beast and its speed was unparalleled. But she was an earth-profound fourth-grade cultivator. Even if she possessed the so-called strange footwork, Wolf Saint Magic was confident that he could find her flaw. Wolf Saint Magic indeed had this thought. Among all the martial arts in the world, only speed could not be defeated. Then, his speed, was it faster than hers? Howl, Chi-Chi saw its own master being approached by the enemy. It immediately pounced over, trying to tear Wolf Saint Magic into pieces. However, the moment it pounced in the direction of the Wolf Saint technique, it suddenly stopped. Wolf Saint Magic didn't turn back, but raised his palm. Instantly, a white fluorescent light shot out. Chi-Chi's huge tiger body suddenly froze in midair, its claws and head seemed to have collided with something. Immediately that transparent barrier was faintly discernible. Barrier. Another barrier. Chi-Chi howled a few times as it gathered all its strength and charged towards Wolf Saint Magic's direction. But every time they charged, they would crash into the barrier. Even the sacred beast's sharp claws were unable to break the barrier. No wonder, Wolf Saint Magic dared to kill all the black-robed protectors after arriving at the underground tunnel. He didn't need to worry about the sacred beast White Tiger, nor the existence of the divine dragon. Because his barrier could completely restrain the sacred beast or the divine dragon. Even if the sacred beast or the divine dragon could break the barrier in the end, there was no harm. Before the barrier was broken, Wolf Saint Magic could totally toy with Yiqing Luo in the palm of his hand. Yiqing Luo only felt her entire body turning cold as her back pressed against the uneven wall. Her charming eyes were fixated on Wolf Saint Magic, the glower flame fan in her hand was ready to strike. Wolf Saint Magic closed in on her, 2 steps away. Stopping and looking at her, scared? Yiqing Luo kept silent. Wolf Saint Magic laughed instead of getting angry, his eyes were filled with interest. To teach a proud and unyielding lass to such a fearful degree, this Saint Magic feels carefree. His aggressive gaze made her feel nauseous. It wasn't a look of interest. Instead, it was the kind of twisted expression one would feel when one saw one's prey struggling in one's hands, yet unable to escape from one's grasp. He moved closer to her and pressed his lips against her ear. A cold and frosty aura sprayed on her skin. This made Yiqing Luo feel even more disgusted. Disgusting goosebumps appeared all over his body. The Wolf Saint Law noticed this and deliberately stretched out his finger to stroke the goosebumps on her neck. He chuckled. So sensitive. Do you hate this Saint Law that much? His voice became deeper and deeper. The middle-aged man's aura carried a bone-chilling coldness. Yiqing Luo's scalp went numb as she endured the disgust and turned her head away. The gourd flame fan in his hand had already been infused with profound energy, ready to find a suitable opportunity to strike him in one blow. But he heard a cold voice with a smile in his ear. Who taught you the thunderclap incantation? Thunderclap arts? Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk. Why did he suddenly ask about the thunderclap incantation? Could it be, is the thundercrash art the same as teleportation? After using it, people will immediately recognize me? Then what was the reward she had obtained after going through so many hardships in the Purgatory Tower? Chapter 1095. Pooh. Yiqing Luo spat impatiently. Playing with words in front of her? She had played this trick countless of times. Could he consider sparing her life? He only said he would consider, not sure. Even if he was sure, she might not believe it. Wolf Saint Magic wiped the saliva off his face, a murderous intent flashed past his eyes. But he still suppressed the anger in his heart and spat out, Who taught you the thunderclap incantation? Where is that person? Where is the secret to the thunderclap incantation? Leave it to me. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. His 3 consecutive questions clearly expressed. His desire for the thunderclap incantation. This might be the chance for her to delay the time and survive. As long as she had something he was interested in, he could not kill her. As though he had seen through her inner thoughts, Wolf Saint Magic's eyes turned hazy. Suddenly, his broad palm landed on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. 5 fingers exerted a little force. A burst of profound qi instantly scattered the crimson outfit she was wearing. The belt loosened and half of her indecent clothes were scattered, revealing her fair shoulder. Yiqing Luo panicked, her eyes widened in disbelief. How dare you? He actually wanted to use the most despicable means to force her to reveal the thunderclap incantation. It wouldn't take her life. But it was more unacceptable than killing her. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were cold, profound qi wrapped around the glower flame fan and flipped it swiftly in her palm. A wind blade went straight for Wolf Xingfa's neck. Wolf Saint Magic snorted lightly, waste of energy. With a light lift of his finger, he easily blocked the wind blade. Yiqing Luo took the opportunity to display her footwork and escaped from Wolf Saint Magic's restraint in a few steps. She speedily ran towards Chi-Chi's direction, condensing profound qi on her feather fan and drew out countless wind blades. The bewitching red glow was like a sharp blade, cutting on that transparent barrier. At the same time, she silently called Chi-Chi's name, attempting to summon Chi-Chi back into the pet space. But no matter how the red sharp blade struck the barrier, it was still unable to move. The barrier was still firm and indestructible. He couldn't summon Chi-Chi back to the pet space either. A boundary was a space that separated the space within the boundary from the outside world. She wouldn't be able to summon her battle pets if they were in different parallel spaces. What was going on with this barrier? How could it be so strong? If even the people of the dark forces could create such a powerful barrier, they would be able to do so. Then there was no need for them to resist at all. The dark forces could just open up a barrier and attack the upper realm. Roar roar, Chi-Chi did not give up and tried to break free from the barrier. Yiqing Luo watched as Chi-Chi was bounced back by the enchantment again and again. The huge tiger head and tiger eyes were scarlet red and there were traces of blood dripping down along the white fur. Her heart tightened as she looked at Chi-Chi comfortingly. He signaled for it not to forcefully crash into the barrier for the time being. At this moment, the Wolf Saint technique once again stuck close to him like a ghost. Little lass, you haven't been impregnated yet, right? Wolf Saint technique sneered coldly as his gaze swept past her fair skin and his large palm directly touched it. Either tell me the whereabouts of the thunderclap incantation, or this saint technique will use. This saint technique's method to make you say it obediently. Yiqing Luo only felt a wave of disgust. Chapter 1096. The wolf sacred technique said disapprovingly, it's very common for a man to have a few women outside. Protector who is an obedient woman, so she naturally understands this sacred technique's intentions. He raised his voice slightly when he said this. It was obvious that he had purposely told this to Yiqing Qian, who was not too far away. Yiqing Qian suppressed the fluster in her heart as she forced a gentle smile on her face. Yes, I believe Wolf Saint Dharma has feelings for me. Even if Wolf Saint Dharma were to deal with you on the spot, it's merely to make you reveal the whereabouts of the thunderclap incantation. Not sure if he was trying to convince Yiqing Luo or himself. Yiqing Qian's voice had no confidence at all. Her eyelashes fluttered as she stared at the alluring Yiqing Luo, whose shoulders were half exposed. The more uneasy she felt. It was because she had taken the initiative to climb onto the sacred wolf technique's bed that she had gained the sacred wolf technique's favor. It could be said that the wolf saint was obsessed with her body. But, if the wolf saint technique was also infatuated with Yiqing Luo's body and couldn't bear to kill her, then what should he do? The uneasiness in her heart made Yiqing Qian unable to witness Wolf Saint technique doing such a thing to Yiqing Luo in front of her. Just as Yiqing Luo and the Wolf Saint technique exchanged a few rounds, Yiqing Luo was suppressed by the Wolf Saint technique to the extent that she had no room to retaliate, and when she was pushed against the wall corner, Yiqing Qian finally couldn't hold it in any longer. She got up with Yiqing Ling's support and said eagerly, Yiqing Luo, you'd better tell me everything that the Wolf Saint technique wants to know. At this moment, Wolf Saint Technique's hand had already tugged open the crimson robe that Yi Qing Luo was wearing. Hearing Yi Qing Qian's words, his hands paused. Yi Qing Luo vaguely discovered that in the eyes of Wolf Saint Technique, a trace of joy flashed past. Joy? Yes, it was joy. She was not mistaken. Was the Wolf Saint Dharma rejoicing that Yi Qing Qian had stopped his actions? This knowledge made Yi Qing Luo's heart heavy. She heaved a sigh of relief when Yi Qing Qian stopped the Wolf Saint Technique's following actions. But at the same time, it also gave her a lot of pressure. Although, this was the first time he had seen the Wolf Saint Technique. But Yi Qing Luo was very clear that Wolf Saint Fa's character was absolutely arrogant and disobedient. Even if it was the King of Darkness, he wouldn't necessarily listen to orders. However, he was still able to sit firmly on the position of holy technique in the dark forces. It must have something to do with his powerful strength. Yi Qing Luo had a deep understanding of his power in the battle. Such an arrogant and despotic saint technique that did not play by the rules, Yi Qing Qian's words could easily sway him. The joy in Wolf Saint Magic's eyes was obviously because of Yi Qing Qian's obstruction. She cared about him. She didn't want him to touch other women. Therefore, he stopped what he was doing. Wolf Saint Dharma's concern towards Yi Qing Qian indicated that he would kill himself for her. Even if he had to destroy the King of Darkness's plan, he would have to do so. Even if he couldn't get the whereabouts of the thunderclap technique. As long as Yi Qing Qian opened her mouth, he would definitely take action. Yi Qing really did not expect. This 40-over-year-old middle-aged man was a man who could be Yi Qing Qian's father. It was a bone-deep love for her. However, Yi Qing Qian didn't realize that she was afraid of losing Wolf Saint Fa's backing and had opened her mouth to stop him, which made Wolf Saint Fa mistakenly think that she was deeply in love with him. Yi Qing Jian racked her brains to dissuade Yi Qing Luo. Don't you still have the Overlord? Don't you want to be chaste for His Majesty? Dmo Xian. Chapter 1097. She would not let the Holy Wolf technique succeed. Even if he were to die, he would never let the Wolf Saint technique taint her body. She couldn't tell him the thunderclap spell either. Otherwise, it would implicate Old Man Song. The matter of the Azure Dew bracelet would also be known to the people of Nirvana Realm. He saw Yi Qing Luo had an obvious reaction when she heard Dmo Xian's name. Yi Qing Jian continued, no one can stop Wolf Saint Magic's decision, not even his lordship. For the sake of our sisterhood, I will give you this piece of advice. Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips, seeing that Wolf Saint Fa had already let go of her shoulder. His gaze fell onto Yi Qing Qian without blinking. She immediately tightened her clothes. For Yi Qing Qian's sake, Wolf Saint Dharma should not make a move on her for the time being. He thought that Yi Qing Qian was jealous. If he really loved Yi Qing Qian, he would definitely not make a move on her at this moment. The Wolf Saint Law wanted to know the whereabouts of the thunderclap incantation, so for the time being, he wouldn't take her life. And with Yi Qing Qian around, he had no way to use such despicable methods to force her to say it out. Then, he would definitely bring her out of the tunnel and into his territory. As long as there was a chance to leave the barrier, it should be no problem for him to teleport away with Chi-Chi. As expected. Seeing Yi Qing Jian using her emotions and reasoning to persuade Yi Qing Luo to reveal the whereabouts of the thunderclap incantation, Wolf Saint Technique could no longer suppress the ecstasy in his heart. He laughed heartily. He didn't bother about Yi Qing Luo's side. To him, pinching Yi Qing Luo to death was as easy as pinching an ant. Yi Qing Qian's face turned pale when she saw him rushing towards her. She thought that he was blaming her for ruining his plans. However, after the Wolf Saint Technique approached her, he reached out and wrapped his arms around her soft body, burying his head in her neck. The middle-aged man in his 40s smiled like a young man who just had his first awakening of love. That hearty laughter was something that Yi Qing Qian had never heard in these few days that she had been accompanying him. Wolf Saint Dharma didn't care about Yi Qing Ling beside him. He didn't bother about Yi Qing Luo who was stuck to the corner of the wall, thinking of ways to escape. He directly clasped her lower jaw and kissed her on the lips. strong and domineering, fervent and unrestrained. Instantly, the style became fiery hot. Not far away, Yiqing Luo could hear Yiqing Qian panting from being kissed, or moaning from the wolf saint technique. Yiqing Ling blushed as she listened and moved aside awkwardly. Yiqing Luo was expressionless as her thoughts were all on how to escape from the tunnel. In any case, the wolf saint technique would never be interested in performing a live broadcast. So be it, kissing and touching. Once he was aroused, the wolf sacred technique would naturally want to leave the tunnel in a hurry. At that time, she could seize the opportunity to escape. About the time it took to burn half a stick of incense, the wolf saint technique's blood was already surging. He couldn't wait to do Yiqing Qian on the spot. Yiqing Qian's clothes were also in a mess. Her clothes hung loosely on her body. She looked extremely flirtatious. Wolf Saint Dharma pulled Yiqing Qian into his arms, his eyes filled with longing. Immediately, he carried Yiqing Qian and was about to leave the tunnel. Yiqing Qian was still rational. Her little hand grabbed the front of Wolf Saint Technique's clothes and reminded in a sweet voice, "Wolf Saint Technique. Yiqing Luo is still here, she is very cunning." Her voice paused as she sensed the burning hot body that was sticking close to her stiffened. Yiqing Qian reacted and realized that she was still calling Yiqing Luo's name under such circumstances. Her motive was too obvious. Chapter 1098. Wolf Saint Magic rubbed Yiqing Qian's head. She didn't know if he believed her words or not. He turned around and walked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo forced herself to calm down. Everything was going according to her expectations. As long as the enchantment was released and she left this tunnel, she would be able to escape. Devil Class's students were still waiting for her. The competition was still waiting for her. She must rush back. She must not let her brother fight alone. The oppressive pressure covered the sky and covered the earth. Wolf Saint Magic's huge palm directly clasped her head. The pain made her head feel like it was about to split open. In a blur, she heard Wolf Saint Magic's cold sneer, "Other than Lord, there is no one else who can escape from this Saint Magic." He was a sly old fox. How could he not see through Yiqing Luo's plan? Trying to escape. He wanted to see how she was going to escape after he knocked her out and brought her away. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth as blood oozed out from her lips. But she still couldn't withstand the attack of the pain, causing her consciousness to be in a mess. Her eyes gradually turned blurry. Bam! A loud sound was aimed at Yiqing Luo's head. Wolf Saint Magic, who wanted to knock her out, suddenly hugged the disheveled lady in his arms and quickly retreated. A burst of majestic profound chi, like a raging wave, covered the sky and attacked Wolf Saint Magic. The entire tunnel's ground started to crack as gravel flew everywhere. Wolf Saint Magic dodged in a panic, carrying another person in his arms. After retreating out of the attack range, he staggered and almost fell to the ground. The hurricane dispersed, revealing a tall and slender figure. A blood-red robe, like a burning flame. Wolf Saint Magic frowned as he looked in shock at the man who walked into the tunnel. His expression suddenly changed. "It's actually you." Losing the support of Wolf Saint Magic, Yiqing Luo's entire body went limp as she fell backwards weakly. Vaguely, she felt a powerful energy force that forced the Wolf Saint technique away. Following that, her body was brought into a warm embrace. A refreshing and serene aura lingered in the air. Her tense nerves, tensed up petite body, finally relaxed slowly. Her head rested in his arms. There was a faint smile at the corner of her eyes, showing that she was at ease. "Ah Xian, you're here." Her Ah Xian still rushed over. Just when she thought she was really going to be taken away by the Holy Wolf technique, it appeared in front of her like a god. Her Ah Xian was here. They would definitely be able to leave safely. Because Ah Xian was her god. The man who was hugging her froze when he heard her mumble his name. His handsome brows furrowed slightly, showing some impatience. "I never thought that the dignified Death God Castle's castle master would actually come to such a small place." Wolf Saint Fa recognized the man in front of him at first glance. To be able to wear such a demonic and enchanting blood-red brocade robe in such a cold and noble manner. A man who was always expressionless, like an iceberg. There was only one death god castle lord, Zhu Wu Xian. Could it be that this lofty and unyielding young lass is your woman? Wolf Saint Technique squinted his eagle eyes as he looked at Zhu Wu Xian, who was hugging Yi Qing Luo's waist tightly. Zhu Wu Xian didn't reply. He only lowered his eyelids silently, looking at the messy clothes in his arms. Her ears were forced to bleed by Wolf Saint Technique's strong profound chi pressure. His dark and gloomy eyes were gradually covered with a layer of frost. You hurt her. For in different words, but it was filled with an extremely cold chill. Chapter 1099. Zhu Wu Xian didn't look at the lady in Wolf Saint Dharma's arms. He pursed his thin lips as his indifferent eyes were filled with chilly emotions. Silently, a powerful aura was emitted from his body. Wolf Saint Dharma's expression changed. You want to fight with me? Zhu Wu Xian ignored his shock and astonishment as he changed his posture and held Yi Qing Luo in his arms. He used his own actions to answer Wolf Saint Dharma. His blood-red robe fluttered like a huge red dragon, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. A ray of profound light erupted from his body as it lingered in his palm. Without hesitation, it struck towards Wolf Saint Dharma's face. This aura was extremely pressurizing. Wolf Saint Dharma avoided it but still didn't retaliate. Only his eagle eyes were deep as he fixed his gaze on Zhu Wu Xian. Are you serious? Whoever hurts her will be an eternal enemy. Spitting out these few words indifferently, Zhu Wu Xian's palm continued to move and the entire tunnel instantly fell into a never-ending hurricane profound light. That intense pressure made Yi Qing Luo's spirit root unable to stand still. Her entire body was swept up by that hurricane and fiercely smashed against the uneven wall. Wolf Saint Dharma protected the screaming person in his arms as he opened up his profound chi to form a semicircle barrier in front of him. It blocked the raging hurricane and Xian Qi outside. Although Yi Qing Qian's profound grade had been transformed by the profound Yin Qi and had already advanced to the earth profound grade. But this body's innate talent was still stuck at the profound grade. At this moment, Zhu Wu Xian didn't show any mercy as his powerful and majestic force enveloped the entire tunnel. Yi Qing Qian couldn't withstand this kind of pressure at all. Immediately a mouthful of blood was sprayed onto Wolf Saint Dharma, splattering his entire face with blood. Yi Qing Qian's face turned pale as she trembled to help him wipe his face and opened her mouth to apologize. But the current her didn't even have the strength to open her mouth. That powerful airwave constantly squeezed her 5 viscera and 6 bowels. She didn't have any strength to move at all. Not to mention raising her hand to help him wipe his face. Wolf Saint Dharma held her little hand and a gentle burst of profound energy was injected into her body. It protected her heart meridians to prevent it from being shattered by Zhu Wu Xian. Zhu Wuxin's actions angered the wolf's sacred technique. His eagle eyes were deep and his face was filled with anger. Death God Castle's Castle Master, are you declaring war on me? Yes. His answer was straightforward and decisive without any hesitation. His indifferent eyes were devoid of emotion. He was clearly doing something extremely heartwarming. However, she couldn't sense any emotion from him. Even when he looked at the girl in his arms, the coldness in his eyes did not fade. This made the Wolf Saint Technique a little confused as to what Zhu Wuxin was thinking. Wolf Saint Technique listened to his unhesitant reply and instead fell into deep thought. Making an enemy out of Zhu Wu Xian in this situation was extremely unwise. Where exactly did this Zhu Wuxin come from? Even his lord had no way of knowing. He only knew that this man who had mysteriously become the castle master of Death God Castle, his strength was not inferior to the master of the imperial palace, Di Zun. Compared to the Death God Castle's castle master, he had a powerful and mysterious background. However, no one knew his true identity. Even his lordship was willing to cooperate with Zhu Wuxin. If he really became enemies with Zhu Wu Xian, the collaboration between the dark forces and Death God Castle, it was definitely impossible. Chapter 1100. After Yiqing Luo rested for a moment, her thoughts gradually cleared up. In his days, he seemed to have heard the Holy Wolf Technique's words. She couldn't help but frown slightly. She tried to open her eyes, which were still a little heavy. She wanted to focus and listen to what they were talking about. The Dark Forces had sent an invitation to Xian? Did the Dark Forces want to cooperate with the Imperial Palace? What ambition did Xian have? Does he want to be like the Dark Forces and unify the Nirvana realm? No, that's impossible. This thought had just flashed past her mind and was immediately denied by Yiqing Luo. If Dmo Xian wanted to unify the Nirvana realm, it would be a piece of cake. Of course, the premise was that the people from the upper realm would not intervene in this matter. However, it was only her personal feeling. Dmo Xian did not have the ambition to unify the Nirvana realm. Otherwise, how could he have abandoned the matters of the Imperial Palace and wandered around her? A truly ambitious person would not be like this. Suddenly, a cold voice floated over his head. If you hurt her, the cooperation is invalid. This voice was not Dmo Xian's voice. But the familiarity made her body stiffen. Immediately, the splitting headache and heaviness in his eyelids disappeared. This was Zhu Wuxin. The embrace she snuggled into was Zhu Wuxin's embrace. This person was not Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo suddenly stretched out her hand as she pushed Zhu Wuxian's chest. Let go of me. However, Zhu Wuxin hugged her even tighter, almost as if he wanted to knead her whole body into his. He did not speak. But the action made Yiqing Luo furious. His struggling movements became more and more ferocious. Wolf Xingfa, who was standing not too far away, curled his lips in disdain when he saw this. Castle Lord of Death God Castle, you've done so much for her, but this little girl doesn't appreciate it at all. Zhu Wuxin, who had been expressionless, suddenly raised his head. His calm and emotionless eyes now revealed a biting cold killing intent. It seemed to be warning the Wolf Saint to shut up. Wolf Saint Technique was stunned by her gaze as he stared at the struggling Yiqing Luo for some time. Suddenly, he laughed out loud. Indeed, the word love was the greatest calamity in the world. No matter how strong a man was, he had to submit to the word love. Unexpectedly, Zhu Wuxin, who had always been cold and arrogant, was so arrogant. He was actually willing to sacrifice himself for a woman without asking for anything in return. At this moment, Yiqing Luo's hand was grabbing onto Zhu Wuxian's collar while the other hand was pressing against his chest, as she bellowed in an evil tone, Zhu Wuxian. Let me go. Where are your hands touching? Take it away. She didn't notice the Holy Wolf Technique's words at all. Zhu Wuxian seemed to have lost his patience and loosened his grip slightly. Just as Yiqing Luo was about to escape from his embrace, she heard a cold voice ringing beside her ear. If you don't want others to see your body, don't move. Yiqing Luo was stunned. This voice sent a chill down her spine. Then, he came to a realization. She lowered her head and looked at her messy clothes. His clothes, which had been shaken off by the Wolf Saint Technique, were already scattered around his waist. Her thin undergarments revealed half of her shoulders, revealing a small pocket embroidered with cherry blossoms. In the process of struggling, it became more and more scattered. Zhu Wuxin hugged her tightly, but it was only to cover her exposed skin. Yiqing Luo gave an ah as her face instantly flushed red. She let go of Zhu Wuxian's collar and speedily pulled up the loose clothes around her waist, pulling it over her body. Just at this moment, the Holy Wolf Technique took the opportunity when Zhu Wuxian had no time to care about himself to bring Yiqing Luo away. Zhu Wuxian's gaze turned cold as he raised his palm to create a hurricane, blocking the Holy Wolf Technique's path. Because of this action, Yiqing Luo's undergarments scattered even further. She instinctively leaned into Zhu Wuxian's embrace, using this to block the exposed spring scenery. Chapter 1101. Brother D, the barrier has been unlocked. A clear and melodious voice that sounded like a silver bell rang out from outside the tunnel. Wolf Saint Law, who was about to rush out of the tunnel, was blocked by Zhu Wu Xian's hurricane. He turned to the side to avoid the hurricane but bumped into a soft body. Ah! The melodious voice cried out in pain as she fell to the side. A strong and powerful arm gently supported that lady. It was just a casual support, and after she stood firm, he retracted his hand. However, that lady took the opportunity and directly snuggled into that arm, hugging his waist tightly, not willing to let go. Wolf Saint Law was stunned. When he saw the tunnel entrance and the person who walked in, his expression was filled with shock. The person who walked in was dressed in a purple luxurious robe. Because of the hurricane, his sleeves fluttered in the wind, creating a stream of light. A head of black hair, not tied up or tied, casually scattered over his shoulders. He looked extremely casual and extremely lazy. What was even more breathtaking was that peerless face of his. His long and narrow demonic peach blossom eyes seemed to bear all the splendor of the world, sparkling with an intoxicating luster. However, there was a hint of chilliness in his eyes. Overlord? Wolf Saint Law recognized the man who was known as a legend in Nirvana realm at one glance. He hugged Yi Qing Qian and retreated a few steps as he looked at Dmo Xian vigilantly. He had heard about Dmo Xian and Yi Qing Luo's relationship from Yi Qing Qian. One was Zhu Wu Xian, and the other was Dmo Xian. A little girl had actually attracted the attention of two great experts, and both of them had gathered here. But the current situation was a little interesting. So interesting that he temporarily didn't want to bring Yi Qing Qian away, and wanted to stay to watch the show. Yi Qing Luo's hand, which was holding onto her robe, paused. She heard a lady's gentle voice. That voice was very familiar. It was the voice which had appeared several times in her dreams, making her heart surge with uneasiness. Subconsciously, she turned her head stiffly and looked towards the direction of the voice. She froze on the spot with this one look. Her body completely tensed up as her pupils dilated. At the entrance of the tunnel, the hurricane dispersed, revealing that peerless figure. Yi Qing Luo's gaze met with that pair of chilly peach blossom eyes. It was like a bottomless pool. Dmo Xian, he came. He came with his own face. Not Senior Mo, but Dmo Xian. Brother D. Sensing the man beside her gradually turning cold, the woman tugged at Dmo Xian's sleeve as she called out softly. Yi Qing Luo's vision then followed the voice and fixed onto that lady. Just one glance and Yi Qing Luo felt as though she had been struck by lightning as she fell into a daze in Zhu Wu Xian's arms. His mind was blank. His taut nerves began to crack one by one. Her mind was filled with the image of that woman. She didn't even notice that she was still in Zhu Wuxin's arms and had already forgotten about the wolf saint technique that was not far away. Nestled in Dmo Xian's arms. That jade-green figure had soft curves. She was curvy where she should be, curvy where she should be. Draped in a jade-colored soft muslin, she looked as elegant as a fairy. Her glossy black hair was tied into a unique bun, with an exquisite golden hairpin. That face was so beautiful that it could make one's soul swoon. Coupled with that gentle-looking, yet like a little dragon girl, cold and pure temperament. It made this lady look even more alluring. Her beauty was different from Yi Qing Luo's ostentatious and enchanting beauty. Her beauty was extremely tranquil, making one feel pity for her. Chapter 1102. More importantly, Yi Qing Luo had seen this lady before. In the Profound Pagoda's test of strength, the second stage was the resentment stage of the gates of hell. He had seen this woman before. In the Dreamland, Dmo Xian and Miss Feng were known as the Golden Boy and Jade Girl, a match made in heaven. That Lady Feng, whose beauty was second only to Dmo Xian. She was actually a real existence. Moreover, with Dmo Xian, he was really so familiar with him. Dmo Xian did not like others to touch him. He would never come into contact with anyone else. But, however, he took the initiative to wrap his arms around the woman's shoulders. He allowed her to nestle in his arms. As Yi Qing Luo looked on, her eyes faintly revealed a chilly glint. That position should belong to her alone. Apart from her, no other woman was allowed to approach that position. But he, in front of her. She allowed another woman to occupy the position that belonged to her. She was still the same woman who made her feel uneasy from the bottom of her heart. Their eyes met and they stared blankly at each other. No one broke the silence. That lady's beautiful eyes roamed around, as it moved back and forth between Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo for a moment. Pursing her red lips, her gentle eyes gradually dimmed. Then, she smiled and pretended to be surprised. Brother D, did you call me here to break this barrier to save these two? That smile was devastatingly beautiful. She was like a pure and untainted fairy, holy and elegant. This must be Brother D's friend. They look like a good match. As she spoke, she covered her lips with her slender fingers and chuckled. There was a tinge of envy in her tone. To be able to go through thick and thin together in the most dangerous times, this kind of relationship, is so enviable. A good match? Share weal and woe? Envy? Yiqing Luo's ears were filled with that lady's words. She looked away and suddenly realized that she was still nestled in Zhu Wuxin's arms with her clothes in a mess. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. Was this a prank from the heavens? The timing of Dmo Xian's arrival was just that coincidental. Her clothes were disheveled and she was in the arms of another man. He held the beauty in his arms, watching her in another man's arms. How ironic, that lady was still saying something but Yiqing Luo had no mood to continue listening. Perhaps it was because of the situation in the illusion, she had a natural aversion to that woman. As she listened to the woman's voice, she felt an indescribable sense of irritation. The woman's words were obviously meant to sow discord between her and Dmo Xian. A woman's intuition was always very accurate. The love rival and the illusion had become a reality. What should she do to protect her feelings? Yiqing Luo took a deep breath, trying her best to calm her emotions down. He could not afford to lose his composure. Otherwise, his love rival would laugh at him. The first thing he had to do was to maintain a distance from Zhu Wuxin and tidy up his clothes. The next step was to prepare for the attack of his love rival. No matter what, before Dmo Xian expressed his stance. This man belonged to her. Of course, even if he expressed his position. Her man was still her man. She left Zhu Wuxin's embrace expressionlessly. Yiqing Luo slowly tidied up her clothes and combed her messy long hair before walking out from the corner. Zhu Wuxin remained silent. Yiqing Luo walked directly towards Dmo Xian. Her expression was calm as her pink lips curled into a sweet and bewitching smile. Finally, she stood 2 steps away from Dmo Xian. She raised her eyes and met his gaze. His gaze was deep, pitch black like the abyss. Just one look made her sink into a bottomless abyss, with a sliver of cold intent. Chapter 1103. That lady was stunned as her gorgeous face revealed a tinge of astonishment. She blinked her beautiful eyes blankly, showing an innocent look. Immediately she raised her eyes and looked at Dmo Xian. Brother D, she. Who is she? While speaking, she still held on to Dmo Xian's hand and had not moved away. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, Dmo Xian then realized that the lady beside him was almost sticking onto his body. Dmo Xian's brows creased slightly as he stretched out his hand to pull Feng Ling away. A fair little hand was even faster than him. Slender 5 fingers directly clasped onto Feng Ling's arm. With a little strength, she directly pulled Feng Ling and pushed her to one side. Feng Ling cried out in pain from his grip. Her eyes instantly turned red as she cried out pitifully, "Brother D." Unexpectedly, her weak and pitiful look was like a weak little grass in the wind. She didn't get any response from Dmo Xian. At this moment, Dmo Xian's deep eyes were fixated on Yiqing Luo. As though in his world, there was only Yiqing Luo and only Yiqing Luo could be seen. Yiqing Luo was filled with disgust towards Feng Ling. Naturally towards her pitiful look, she didn't have any sympathy. She directly walked to Dmo Xian's side and stood at the position where Feng Ling was standing earlier. Her lips curled as she gave Feng Ling an extremely enchanting and provocative smile. Immediately, she turned back. Slender wrist hooked onto Dmo Xian's neck. Using a little strength, she pulled his head downwards. Dmo Xian cooperated by bending his waist. Yiqing Luo tiptoed and her pink lips covered his thin lips. Their lips touched and her wrist hooked even tighter. Her soft petite body fell into Dmo Xian's arms. She opened her mouth and aggressively left a bite mark on his lips. Dmo Xian's long eyelashes fluttered as he felt astonished by this little lady's action. Immediately, his heart was filled with ecstasy. Because he saw Yiqing Luo snuggling into Zhu Wu Xian's arms, the moment she took the initiative to kiss his lips, declaring her sovereignty, it all disappeared. Hugging her slender waist tightly, Dmo Xian immediately turned from passive to active. The tip of his tongue forcefully pried open her lips, her pearly white teeth. Just as he was about to enter, the fair little hand on his chest suddenly exerted force. Dmo Xian was caught off guard and was pushed away by the little woman. A silver line appeared at the corner of their lips. Yiqing Luo's cheeks blushed slightly, but her expression remained composed. He quirked his eyebrows and stared at Wind Chime's exquisite face, which alternated between red and green. As if she hadn't had enough, her pink tongue swept across her lips, sweeping the obvious silver strands into her mouth. His voice was hoarse and full of charm. "Tell me, who am I?" Windling staggered a few steps back as if she had suffered a huge blow. Her small face instantly turned pale, and her small body trembled violently. It was as if he was going to faint in the next second. Her eyes reddened and she trembled as she asked, "Brother D, why you?" Dmo Xian still did not look at Feng Ling. His gaze had always been fixated on Yiqing Luo. Looking at her enchanting smile and coquettishly licking her lips. That look of wanting more after tasting him made an inexplicable flame surge to his lower abdomen, causing his body to tense up. His little Luo heir, was she jealous? That was why she deliberately pushed him away when he wanted to taste the delicious taste of her own accord. Was she punishing him? He had to admit that this punishment was extremely torturous for him. The flames surging in his lower abdomen. As a man, a normal man, Dmo Xian naturally knew what was going on. This was the fire that little Luo heir had stirred up. Chapter 1104. Dmo Xian's disregard towards Feng Ling had pleased her. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at that man with gloomy eyes as she gave a light humph. At least he knew his place. If he still went to talk to Feng Ling, or if he pretended that nothing had happened, pulled her along, and introduced Feng Ling to her. She gave a kick and sent Dmo Xian up to the sky, shoulder to shoulder with the sun. Glancing at that petite little beauty, she looked like she was about to cry. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened as her soft body once again snuggled into Dmo Xian's arms. Her slender fingers caressed that mesmerizing face as she smiled like a flower. "Xian, tell her, who am I?" Feng Ling's beautiful eyes revealed an astonished look. She staggered a few steps back again. Stepping on a piece of gravel, her body immediately fell backwards. She subconsciously stretched out her hand towards Dmo Xian, "Brother D." However, that man's gaze, which was filled with warmth, didn't even notice her. That pair of peach blossom eyes, which she loved so much, reflected Yiqing Luo's figure completely. In his eyes, there was no room for anyone else. Bam! Feng Ling crashed against the uneven wall as the sharp gravel pierced through her skin. Fresh blood instantly stained her green dress. She held back her tears as she looked at Dmo Xian. Coincidentally, she met Dmo Xian's gaze. Feng Ling immediately burst into tears as she leaned against the wall and trembled, "Brother D, it hurts." "Xiao Ling, she is the future mistress of the Imperial Palace." Feng Ling was stunned as she stared at Yiqing Luo in disbelief. The future mistress of the Imperial Palace? Which meant Dmo Xian was serious? Dmo Xian wanted to marry this woman? No. Impossible. Feng Ling didn't care about the pain and blood gushing out as she rushed towards Dmo Xian. Her hands tried to grab Dmo Xian's arm as she asked anxiously, "Brother D, are you joking? Grandma will not let an unknown lady become the mistress of the imperial palace." Her hand had yet to touch Dmo Xian's hand. Dmo Xian had already hugged the person in his arms, avoiding her touch. Taking half a step back, he stood firm. His gaze was dark and cold. He stared at wind chimes quietly, and his emotions were calm. "Young Ling, I am the master of the palace." The ice-cold tone was like a silver needle that pierced into her heart. Feng Ling held her breath. Her swaying body went limp, and she knelt on one knee on the ground. His face was filled with a look of being unable to withstand the blow. "Xiao Ling, you're a smart child. Don't try in vain to use your grandmother to pressure me." Finished speaking, he moved his gaze away. Feng Ling looked at him. Looking at the way he looked at Yiqing Luo, the obvious pampering and tender feelings in his eyes. This was an emotion she had never seen in his eyes before. It turned out that he also had such a gentle side to him. He was Dmo Xian, the almighty Di Zun. Even the sect masters of the 4 major sects and the rulers of the 4 continents had to bow and show him respect. But he allowed Yiqing Luo to humiliate him in public. He allowed Yiqing Luo to do whatever she wanted, taking the initiative to kiss him in front of everyone with a look of joy on his face. He allowed Yiqing Luo to leave a mark on his lips, with a delighted expression. He allowed, countless of them, she had been following behind Dmo Xian since young, and admired him for a whole 10 years. How could she not tell? Dmo Xian really loved Yiqing Luo. The kind of love that went deep into the bone. Based on what? Based on what she had guarded for 10 years, became Yiqing Luo's man? The person Dmo Xian should fall in love with was her. Resentment and bursting possessiveness surged out from his eyes. Chapter 1105. Dmo Xian's attitude towards Feng Ling and the words, "She will be the future mistress of the imperial palace," had completely pleased him. Her long and narrow eyes were tinged with a smile. Leaning into his arms obediently, Yiqing Luo didn't struggle any further. His gaze moved past wind chimes and landed on Wolf Saint Technique, who was watching the show by the side. A hint of a smile appeared at the corners of his lips. "Wolf Saint Technique, have you watched enough?" The Wolf Saint Technique lowered his gaze and looked at the person in his arms. "Has who seen enough?" Yiqing Qian bit her lower lip tightly. She expressed that this scene was not going according to the script she had in mind. When Dmo Xian saw Yiqing Luo nestled in another man's arms, shouldn't he be infuriated? And then fight with Zhu Wuxin? Or, when Yiqing Luo saw Dmo Xian carrying another lady, shouldn't she be infuriated? Then create a ruckus with Dmo Xian and force him to leave? How? Why did the relationship between the two of them seem to be even more intimate? Yiqing Luo didn't wait for Yiqing Qian's response as she smiled sweetly. "Since you've seen enough, then, the debt between us should be settled." Yiqing Qian's face turned pale as she shrank into Wolf Saint Technique's arms. "How do you want to calculate?" Wolf Saint Magic's large palm caressed Yiqing Qian's back, silently comforting her. His malicious eyes looked towards Yiqing Luo. He secretly pondered the situation before him. Chu Wu Xian and Dmo Xian were apparently here to save Yiqing Luo. In other words, as long as Yiqing Luo opened her mouth, Chu Wuxin and Dmo Xian would definitely be seething with anger. "Ah Xian, what do you think I should do?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she hooked her arms around Dmo Xian's neck and asked with a smile. Dmo Xian gently stroked her hair as his deep black eyes gazed deeply at her. There was a smile at the corner of his mouth, and there was a doting smile on his face. His little Luoer was using her connections to intimidate others. However, he liked it. To be able to become Lil Luo's backer. He was extremely happy to let Lil Luo use her power to intimidate others. This was also the manifestation of little Luo's increasing reliance on him. This was a good sign. Dmo Xian couldn't help but pinch her pretty nose. Looking at her proud expression, it made him want to press her against the wall and kiss her lips. His gaze caught a glimpse of those scars on Yiqing Luo. His pitch-black eyes, which were like whirlpools, suddenly focused. His fingertips brushed past the red mark on her neck. His ice-cold voice echoed in the quiet tunnel. "If I hurt you, I'll destroy the Wolf Saint's forces. What do you think, little Luo, Wolf Saint's faction?" That was the sphere of influence of the Wolf Saint technique among the dark forces. When Lang Xingfa heard this, his expression changed greatly, and he blurted out in shock, "You, how could you? Everything related to the dark world was their secret. For example, the 4 great saint techniques. Outsiders had no way of knowing." However, Dmo Xian actually knew about Wolf Saint's forces. Did he know that it belonged to his territory? Could it be, the dark forces also had Dmo Xian's men? This thought caused Lang Xingfa's face to turn increasingly ashen. He didn't want to stay any longer. Hugging Yiqing Qian tightly, he flew towards the entrance of the underground tunnel. Dmo Xian's lips twitched sinisterly as his purple robe fluttered. Profound qi was like a surging airwave, swallowing the mountains and rivers. It instantly covered the entrance of the underground tunnel. Previously, it was Wolf Saint technique who forcefully stopped Yiqing Luo from leaving the underground tunnel. Now, the cycle had reversed. Wolf Saint technique wanted to leave, but he couldn't. No one stopped him from leaving. Until his figure completely disappeared at the entrance of the tunnel. The Wolf Saint Fa's heart finally calmed down a little. Zhu Wu Xian gave up on avenging Yiqing Luo. Then, there was only Dmo Xian left. At least, it was better than offending Zhu Wuxin at the same time. With this in mind, the Wolf Saint technique gained some confidence. He looked at Dmo Xian and said calmly, "Overlord, this saint will not hurt that little lass, but it's to settle the debt on behalf of my woman." He placed her down and lifted her head, revealing the wound at the bottom of her neck. Even though he had applied ointment to stop the bleeding and the pain. But that pinch mark, where the dagger had sliced the flesh, was extremely obvious. Comparing it to Yiqing Luo's injury, she had merely suffered some superficial injuries. Chapter 1107. All in all, Yiqing Qian's injury was obviously more serious. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed out loud. "You settle the scores for your woman, my man settle the scores for me, this is very fair, how are you being overbearing?" Wolf Saint Fa was speechless. The era of relying on one's father was over. What she needed now was her own man. Yiqing Luo felt that the feeling of hugging her man's thigh was not bad at all. At least when she saw Wolf Saint Fa's expression. She felt great. Yiqing Luo raised a finger and pointed at Yiqing Qian, smiling extremely innocently. "The most important point is that she kidnapped my brother. She couldn't bear to hurt her brother." But under Yiqing Qian's incitement, Yiqing Ling hurt him to that state. Talking about settling the scores. Did he have the right to settle the scores with her? Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly sunk as a chilly intent flowed from the bottom of her eyes. With a flip of her palm, a strong surge of profound qi surged into her palm. Zzz, the sound of electric current scuttled in Yiqing Luo's palm. That electric current shone brightly and dimly, illuminating the entire tunnel. Gradually it formed into a ball shape. Dmo Xian stared at that electric current ball as his pupils congealed. The shock in his eyes couldn't be concealed. "Thunderclap arts." 3 words, blurted out. Yiqing Luo was still creating the thunderclap when she heard Dmo Xian's voice. She glanced sideways and looked at him. "What's the matter?" Dmo Xian remained silent for a moment as he raised his hand to rub her hair. His thin lips slowly curled upwards. "The power of the thunderclap arts is extremely powerful and is divided into 10 levels. If the thunderclap arts is cultivated to the 10th level, one thunderclap arts is enough to destroy an entire city." Yiqing Luo's eyes widened. Thunderclap arts, actually had such a powerful destructive power? Why hadn't Old Man Sung mentioned it to her? Little Luo always gives me a surprise. Dmo Xian bent down and inched closer to her ear as he said in a low voice, but if there's no emergency, try not to use the thunderclap arts. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes. His words reminded her of Wolf Saint Fa's fervent gaze when he saw the thunderclap arts. He even used such despicable methods to force her to reveal the whereabouts of the thunderclap incantation. He then remembered that he had used teleportation to attract the attention of the ghost doctor and god pirate. Could it be that the reward for clearing the Purgatory Tower, were they actually secret arts that had been passed down for a long time? However, that was indeed the case. Whether it was teleportation or the thunderclap incantation. If outsiders were to find out about the power of these two secret techniques, it would probably stir up the entire Nirvana realm and crazily plunder the manuals of these two secret techniques. Just as she was deep in thought, the Wolf Saint technique suddenly formed a barrier for himself. Shortly after, his two palms split open an oppressive aura, causing the ground to be filled with gravel. Dmo Xian instinctively protected Yiqing Luo. Using his own body, he helped Yiqing Luo to block those gravel attacks. Take this opportunity. Wolf Saint Dharma hugged Yiqing Qian tightly and rushed towards the entrance. Trying to escape. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold. The pain that Xiao Yu had suffered has yet to be repaid. None of you can think of leaving. The gravel scattered and Yiqing Luo swiftly pushed Dmo Xian away. The lightning ball in her hand was like a falling lightning, breaking through the air. A sizzling sound was heard, accompanied by the sound of breaking through the air. The speed was extremely fast and in just a blink of an eye, it had already attacked Wolf Saint Dharma. Ah, a miserable shriek was heard. A petite figure was coincidentally struck by that lightning ball. The electric current flowed through the petite girl's body. Boom, a loud explosion was heard. The electric current exploded and that petite figure was instantly blasted into pieces. Chapter 1108. Dmo Xian's first reaction was to pull Yiqing Luo into his arms. His broad body enveloped her completely in his embrace, leaving no gap between them. As for wind chimes, she did not manage to escape in time. Her flesh exploded, and her body was covered in blood. There was a lot of minced meat that hit her face directly. The strong smell of blood made her stomach churn. Holding on to the wall, she couldn't help but vomit. The sound of blood splattering on the ground gradually subsided. Dmo Xian then slowly released Yiqing Luo's slender waist. The pungent smell in the air and the blood and minced meat all over the ground indicated that the scene earlier was not an illusion. She looked up at the entrance of the tunnel. There was no sign of Wolf Saint Law. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, her long curly eyelashes moved. Let them escape again. She didn't expect Yiqing Qian to be so ruthless. Just now, at the moment when her electric ball was about to hit Wolf Saint Law. Nestled in Wolf Saint Law's arms, Yiqing Qian suddenly released her profound qi and sucked Yiqing Ling into her hands. Immediately, she threw Yiqing Ling towards the direction of the electric ball without hesitation. Although the first level of the thunderclap technique could only create a fist-sized electric ball. But the power of this electric ball was enough to make this tunnel and this abandoned temple collapse. The electric ball hit Wolf Saint Law. Such a powerful and arrogant man, it wouldn't take his life, but it could restrict his movements. Not to mention, now that she had become an ordinary human, she could only use the jade flute to control the magical beasts. The electric ball's power fell on Yiqing Ling's flesh and blood. Yiqing Ling had no ability to resist. Directly turned into minced meat. So what if he ran away? Dmo Xian caressed the person in his arms disapprovingly. What I said earlier was not a joke. That sentence? Yiqing Luo looked up and looked into his deep inky eyes. Instantly understood. He said to destroy Wolf Saint's forces. This sentence was not a joke. He really wanted to destroy Wolf Saint's forces in the dark forces? Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips and snuggled into his chest. Will it be dangerous? I won't. He smiled reassuringly. With you around, I can't bear to put myself in danger. This sentence, word by word, struck her heart heavily. This man, he purposely stabbed her with his words. He was blaming her for being alone in danger. Yiqing Luo remained silent for a moment and obediently rubbed her face against him. I'm sorry, Ah Xian, there won't be a next time. Dmo Xian lowered his eyes and looked at the person in his arms. That extremely tender face was so obedient that it made his heart ache. After staring at her for a while, he held her face and gently kissed her lips. I don't believe this sentence. Ugh. Before she could finish her sentence, she was swallowed whole by him. Yiqing Luo's petite body turned soft as she was kissed senseless. Alright, she didn't believe that there wouldn't be a next time either. When Yiqing Luo was about to suffocate from the kiss, Dmo Xian finally released her in satisfaction. His smooth jaw slowly rested on her shoulder. His warm breath caressed her ears. Seeing the little woman's ears turning red, he couldn't help but leaned forward and kissed her. His low and hoarse voice was filled with desire that made one blush. Little Luo, looks like I have to leave a mark on you so that I can grasp your direction anytime and anywhere. Yiqing Luo's eyes were like silk as she coquettishly stared at him and pouted her little mouth in a coquettish manner. Pervert. Chapter 1109. A single voice could make her face flush red and her body go limp. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as her little hand pushed his chest. You should be back at West Lawn Square. Everyone is still waiting for me to return. Stop fooling around. Today's first round, they won't have any problems. Dmo Xian's long arm locked her slender waist and refused to let go. Yiqing Luo's cheeks blushed slightly. We still have to rush back. Who knows what methods the dark forces will use. Dmo Xian still refused to let go. Before this, you'd better think about how you're going to explain to me about the matter between you and Zhu Wu Xian. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips and turned her little face to the side. Aren't you still with other women? So, we need time to be alone. Dmo Xian's thin lips curled up, smiling like a sly fox. Yiqing Luo pondered for a moment and continued to struggle. You're the master of the main courtyard. If you don't appear at the competition venue for a long time, it will make people suspicious. Don't worry, I have my ways. Dmo Xian's slender fingers pressed against her lips. You're evading like this. I'm starting to suspect if you and Zhu Wu Xian are. No. Yiqing Luo stared at him furiously, with a, if you dare to continue speaking, I'll bite you to death, look on her face. She gave a light snort and slapped away Dmo Xian's palm. She pointed to the little kitten who had already shrunk to the size of a palm and Chi, who was cozily nesting in the enchantment. Break the enchantment and leave this place first. The room was filled with corpses, and the smell of blood was strong. If she stayed here any longer, her sense of smell was going to stop working. Dmo Xian caught her mischievous little hand and shot a glance at the woman who was leaning against the wall while vomiting. He spoke in a calm voice. Xiaoling, undo that enchantment. Feng Ling's face was pale and her eyes were red. Because he was heartbroken. It was also because he had vomited too hard just now. Her beautiful eyes were misty with tears. If an ordinary person saw her like this, their heart would definitely clench, and they wouldn't bear to see such a sad expression on her face. However, she was facing a Yiqing Luo who hated her to the core. One was Dmo Xian who did not put her in his heart. Even though Wenqin cried her heart out. Perhaps, the two of them would not even say a word of comfort. Just like now, even though Feng Ling was in a sorry state with Yiqing Ling's blood and flesh stuck on her body, looking pitiful. Dmo Xian was still emotionless as he stated his request. To Dmo Xian. He asked Feng Ling to rush over from the Imperial Palace. It was all for the sake of sensing the powerful barrier of the West Wave continent and breaking it. It was that simple. Brother D. Feng Ling looked at Dmo Xian in disbelief. She was already in such a sorry state and he didn't even say anything to comfort her. And even ordered her to save Yiqing Luo's war pet? Why are you still in a daze? Dmo Xian didn't seem to notice Feng Ling's emotions. Of course, other than Yiqing Luo's emotions. The others had nothing to do with him. Feng Ling clenched her fists and raised her face stubbornly. She stared at him with tearful eyes. Brother D, aren't you being too cruel? Pucci, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but burst out laughing. Seeing that both of their targets were on her, her lips curled as her finger poked Dmo Xian's chest and teased, "Did you hear that? Little beauty said you're cruel." Dmo Xian narrowed his long and narrow peach blossom eyes as he looked at Feng Ling with his deep black eyes. An oppressive deterrent was slowly released from his body. Chapter 11:10. Big teardrops rolled down from the corner of Feng Ling's eyes. Her petite body trembled as she leaned against the wall to barely support herself. Why? Feng Ling pursed her red lips as tears blurred her vision. Dmo Xian frowned as his brows revealed an obvious impatience. If it wasn't for the fact that he was in a hurry to find Yi Fengyu's whereabouts so that Yiqing Luo could participate in the interclass competition in peace, he wouldn't have specially called Feng Ling over. If it wasn't for the fact that Feng Ling's persistence towards him had not been extinguished over time. Even if he exhausted 3 levels of profound energy, he wouldn't call Feng Ling over. It wasn't that he couldn't sense or break the enchantment barrier by searching for the dark force's sacred arts. It just needed some time. It needed to consume his own profound energy. He was worried that the dark forces would make use of Yi Fengyu to threaten Yiqing Luo. Therefore, he specially called Feng Ling, who was extremely proficient in enchantment barriers and had the innate talent to sense the existence of enchantment barriers. It turned out that his worries were right. But he would rather use 3 levels of profound energy to deal with Feng Ling. Dmo Xian couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with Feng Ling. He loosened his arm around Yiqing Luo's slender waist and whispered gently, "Wait for me." After that, he walked towards Chi-Chi's direction. Standing in front of Chi-Chi, his eyes narrowed as he moved his palm to condense profound chi to break the enchantment barrier. Behind him, a fluorescent light flashed. That fluorescent light fell on the enchantment barrier, trapping Chi-Chi. The transparent barrier emitted a dazzling light. Once, twice, the enchantment broke and the little fellow, who was as white as a cat, suddenly leapt up and stepped on Dmo Xian's shoulder. Its furry little tail swept across Dmo Xian's face. "When did you fall in love with this kind of battle pet?" Feng Ling opened her palm and that fluorescent light that broke the enchantment barrier returned to her palm. Finally, it landed on a sparkling and translucent jade stone in her palm. When the fluorescent light completely subsided, Feng Ling slowly closed her palm and placed the jade stone against her chest. When she opened her hands again, the jade stone had disappeared. Dmo Xian gently stroked the little cat on his shoulder and withdrew his profound energy as he turned towards Yiqing Luo's direction. As he turned, his cold voice rang indifferently. "Because this is her battle pet. Because it belonged to Yiqing Luo, that was why he liked it. Because Yiqing Luo liked it, so he liked it too." Windling was stunned on the spot. Her hands hung limply by her sides. In her mind, she recalled that many years ago, when she was undergoing special training arranged by her grandmother, she had caught an extremely cute magical beast. It was a fox beast. It had a sharp mouth and long, evil eyes. No matter how she coaxed it, the fox beast ignored her. Just like the unapproachable Dmo Xian. Little Feng Ling excitedly brought the fox beast and rushed into the meeting hall, interrupting Dmo Xian and Grandma's discussion about the imperial palace. However, she was mercilessly pushed away by him. In front of Grandma, he said indifferently, "I hate this kind of thing." Yes, he hated beasts and battle pets. Even after that, he had contracted Little Nine. He also did not get too close to Little Nine. But now, it was a tiger beast and a weak-looking tiger cub. She stepped on his shoulder with a big stab. He did not get angry. Instead, he smiled gently. He was smiling so gently at a battle pet. But he was so cold to her. He did not hate beasts or battle pets. He only hated her. Feng Ling's thoughts drifted far away. She saw the man whom she had been infatuated with for 10 years was already holding another woman and walking towards the entrance of the tunnel. Chapter 11:11. Wind Chimes was delighted. He still had her in his heart. He would not abandon her like this. A smile blossomed at the corner of his mouth. Because he stopped in his tracks, all the grievances from before vanished into thin air. She quickly jogged towards Dmo Xian's direction. Brother D, I knew you. Go back to the palace by yourself, or Ah Feng will send you back. Dmo Xian looked at her indifferently, without a trace of emotion in his eyes. Saying that, he had already turned around and hugged Yiqing Luo as they walked out of the tunnel. A tiger's roar cut through the sky. In the blink of an eye, the surroundings fell into a dead silence. As she stood in the tunnel that had long since been reduced to ruins, corpses, blood, and flesh, Wind Chimes suddenly felt very cold. That kind of bone-chilling, heart-wrenching cold. Unable to bear it, she hugged herself and squatted down, trembling. He didn't know how long he had been sitting there. Then, he heard the faint sound of footsteps. She looked up happily. Brother D, his smile froze on his face. The person opposite her revealed a sinister smile. Miss Feng, why are you crying so sadly? Dizun really doesn't know how to take care of women. Feng Ling's beautiful eyes froze. She raised her hand and wiped away the tears at the corners of her eyes. She immediately stood up and looked at the person in front of her warily. What do you want to do? The man's smile grew colder. Of course I'm here to help you. Help me? Wind Chimes snorted coldly. Do people from the underground know how to help others? The person in front of him was none other than the wolf Saint Law who had left and returned. He squinted his eagle eyes as if he could see through people's hearts. He stared into Feng Ling's eyes and said, Don't you want to be the venerable sovereign? Feng Ling's expression changed. What do you mean? Miss Feng is smart, you should understand what I mean. The wolf saint technique laughed in a profound manner. How about it, is Miss Feng interested in cooperating with this saint technique? Chi-Chi's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had already stopped in front of the dormitory. The empty old house was quiet. It was time for the interclass competition. Everyone had already rushed to Shilon Square to watch the competition. The two of them entered Yiqing Luo's room but didn't meet anyone. Knowing what to do, Chi-Chi entered the pet space on its own and shut off all sight and hearing. It was a tiger. It had no interest in dog food at all. The minute they entered the room, Yiqing Luo was pressed against the table by Dmo Xian. He pinched her chin and bit down harshly on her lips. Lil Luo, it's just the two of us now. If you confess, you'll be lenient. If you resist, you'll be strict. His long and narrow peach blossom eyes shone brightly. It dazzled Yiqing Luo for a moment. She blinked her eyes and wrapped her arms around his neck. Her lips curled up. I should be the one saying that. Their eyes met, and the temperature inexplicably rose. His lips covered hers again. The warm touch and the overbearing and powerful strength locked her in place. Her cheeks were flushed red. Her delicate body softened and turned into water. Before she knew it, he had already carried her onto the mahogany table and kissed her. It was forceful and domineering. As though he was going to swallow her up. After a long while, looking at her flushed face, Dmo Xian finally stopped. His hoarse voice whispered softly beside her ear. She's called Feng Ling, the granddaughter of the Imperial Palace's granny. She has been by my side since young. Yo, childhood sweethearts. Both of you are young and innocent. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes as she said in a sour tone. Chapter 11:12. Aha. Yiqing Luo scoffed arrogantly. But she leaned into Dmo Xian's embrace and changed her position. Dmo Xian raised his hand and said in all seriousness, I swear, I have absolutely no intentions towards her. Yiqing Luo continued to snort and continued to act tsundere. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with adoration. He loved her delicate look. He couldn't help but lower his head and kiss her red and swollen lips. He pressed his forehead against hers and said in a low voice, "If you don't believe me, you can check my body to see if there are any traces of her." His tone was filled with a naughty smile, and his shimmering peach blossom eyes were also flashing with an evil luster. Yiqing Luo instantly blushed as she gritted her teeth and spat out 2 words, "No. Use it." Of course she knew that Dmo Xian had no interest in Feng Ling. If she had any thoughts, she wouldn't be the one acting like a tsundere right now. She simply wanted to be tsundere. Who told him to hold Wind Chime's shoulders when they were in the tunnel and even let Wind Chimes hug his waist? His embrace could only belong to her alone. "In my place, there's only you." As though he had seen through her thoughts, Dmo Xian narrowed his peach blossom eyes and said in a low voice. That low and hoarse voice sounded extremely serious. His deep, pitch-black eyes stared at her without blinking. Yiqing Luo's little face blushed as she subconsciously lowered her eyes and turned her head away. Her lower jaw was held by his slender fingers, forcing her to meet his gaze. At that time, when she fell, I just helped her up. Dmo Xian patiently explained, "When I was helping her up, I saw you in Zhu Wu Xian's arms with your clothes disheveled." He paused for a moment. He felt the little woman in his arms stiffen. The corners of his lips curled into a sinister smile. "At that time, did you think I was still in the mood to pay attention to Shaoling?" Seeing Yiqing Luo's clothes in a mess, nestled in Zhu Wu Xian's arms, it looked so intimate and ambiguous. Even though deep in his heart, he knew that Yiqing Luo and Zhu Wu Xian could not possibly have any special relationship. However, when he saw that scene, he still could not suppress the fury in his heart. The wind chimes were not important, so he did not pay attention to them at all. His mind was filled with the scene of Yiqing Luo and Zhu Wu Xian hugging intimately. Yiqing Luo still maintained her arrogance as she snorted. It was just a verbal tsundere. However, her actions revealed her current mood. She struggled free from the restraint of his fingers and rubbed her blushed little face against Dmo Xian's chest as her arms wrapped tightly around Dmo Xian's waist. The more Dmo Xian looked at her tsundere look, the happier he was. Yes, his little Luo's arrogant look only belonged to him alone. Dmo Xian tightened her arms and her petite body was completely plastered onto his body. Between the two of them, there were only 2 layers of clothes that were not too thick. Yiqing Luo's soft chest pressed against his sturdy chest. It was very soft to the touch. Dmo Xian suddenly recalled the last time after the battle in King Ling's tomb, when he helped Yiqing Luo apply medicine. He saw everything about Yiqing Luo. Actually, his little Luo had everything she needed. This size was just enough for him to control with one hand. But the moment he thought of this, his lower abdomen tightened. Dmo Xian's pupils contracted as he increased his strength once again. Ugh! Yiqing Luo moaned in pain as her slender brows creased as her little hand pushed his chest. "Xian, you're hurting me." Her words had just ended when she was pressed onto the red wooden table. The man's scorching hot body was tightly plastered onto hers. Chapter 11-13. Xian. Yiqing Luo's breathing suddenly stopped as her little hand blocked in between the both of them. A rich man's breath encircled Yiqing Luo's body. Her entire body turned soft as her little hand's resistance was totally useless. But moments later, her little hand was restrained by Dmo Xian. The man's hot and wet kiss landed harshly on her lips. Her breath seemed to be sucked away, making her feel numb as though she was electrocuted. Yiqing Luo's petite body was trembling. Even if she had never eaten pork, she had seen a pig run. Moreover, this wasn't the first time Dmo Xian had lost control. She naturally understood what that **** on her abdomen represented. Her cheeks turned even redder from embarrassment. A man's desire really came at the drop of a hat. It was no wonder that people often said that men used their lower body to think about life. This wasn't the first time she stopped Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo didn't know how long a man could hold it in. She was after all a 21st generation person, and since she had already set her mind on Dmo Xian, she would definitely follow him for the rest of her life. Even if she allowed things to happen and let nature take its course, that was a normal thing. But she retracted her gaze as she hid away her flustered and indulged heart. Her little hand pushed against his chest. At this moment, she couldn't let things develop naturally. Because her brothers were still sweating and competing in the arena. How could she possibly be at ease with Dmo Xian here? Her motive for coming here was to resolve the mutual misunderstanding with Dmo Xian. Ah, Xian, calm down. Just as his lips were about to press against hers again, Yiqing Luo opened her mouth and bit his thin lips harshly. Dmo Xian loosened his grip as he propped himself up. His eyes were filled with passion, as deep as the water. He stared at her as his movement stopped, but his body was still pressing on her in an overbearing manner. With Zhu Wu Xian. It's a misunderstanding. Yiqing Luo tried her best to change the topic as her breathing was hurried and her little face was flushed red, not daring to look at him. That soft and charming little voice was trembling. After the deep kiss, it was mixed with a seductive voice. Under Dmo Xian's tranquil peach blossom eyes which made one sink into it. Yiqing Luo finally managed to concisely explain how Wolf Saint Method found out about the Thunderclap manual and how he used despicable methods to force her, and how she was saved by Zhu Wu Xian. In the end, she looked at him helplessly with her slightly moist eyes. I stuffed them into his arms because I wanted to use his body to gather my clothes first. Who knew that you would be so coincidental and come here at the right time? Dmo Xian felt his lower abdomen tightening. His Lil Luor, just by showing such an expression, he could not control his desire. Towards Lil Luo, he seemed to have no self-control at all. He knew the reason why Lil Luo was rejecting him now. Under such circumstances, even if he couldn't restrain himself, he wouldn't go all the way. You really don't know Zhu Wu Xian? Dmo Xian lowered his head as he followed along with her topic. Yiqing Luo's long eyelashes fluttered. I really don't know him. Qing Luo's character. Zhu. Of. Dmo Xian remained silent for a long while before he spoke in a low voice. Even if it's a subordinate who had followed him through life and death for a few years, at the critical juncture, he would not hesitate to abandon them. Humans are not plants, how can they be emotionless? Even for him. Facing the 4 protectors who had followed him for many years and risked their lives for him several times. He would at least say a few words of concern. He would never give up their lives. But Zhu Wuxin could. For someone like Zhu Wuxin, there was no one else in his life other than himself. Yet, he was so concerned about Yiqing Luo. Chapter 11-14. During the World Mercenary Group's first mission. If it wasn't for Zhu Wu Xian, Yiqing Luo wouldn't be able to successfully bring the exquisite pagoda out of Death God Castle. It was totally impossible. Those youngsters from the World Mercenary Group were able to leave unscathed. Zhu Wu Xian had intentionally let them pass. Whereas this time round, Yiqing Luo was in danger and Zhu Wu Xian didn't hesitate to go against the dark forces. Based on Zhu Wu Xian's character, how could he possibly harm his own benefits for others? To push himself into a dangerous situation? But Yiqing Luo said that she didn't know Zhu Wu Xian. Dmo Xian naturally believed Yiqing Luo's words. But he didn't understand that Zhu Wu Xian's performance. Apparently he knew Yiqing Luo and there was some past between them. Had Zhu Wu Xian recognized the wrong person? Thinking of this, Dmo Xian's black eyes slowly narrowed. You don't believe me? Seeing Dmo Xian's silence, Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she stared at him unhappily. Dmo Xian suddenly held her waist tightly. The other hand, his broad palm, followed along her waist and slowly moved upwards. She could clearly feel the scorching temperature through her thin clothes. 5 fingers, covered the loins. A pinch. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled. He bent down and bit her earlobe. A deep magnetic voice with a hint of anger rang by the side of her ear. "You're my woman. If I don't believe you, who should I believe?" Yiqing Luo's little hand frantically pressed his hand, which was moving around the loins, as she spoke in a trembling voice. I'm wrong. I know you believe me." "What's wrong?" Dmo Xian's slender legs slightly exerted force as he pushed open the little woman's tightly shut legs. His thin lips curled upwards, looking devilishly alluring. Yiqing Luo's body froze. If this went on, be careful of the second mishap. If this went on, the one who would suffer would be him. "Ah, Xian." Yiqing Luo's gentle voice was extremely soft. "Are you sure you want to use this position to talk to me?" Dmo Xian's brows rose slightly as he gave an evil cold smile. "Why? I'm only in charge of stirring up the fire, not in charge of extinguishing it." Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her eyes curved, revealing a teasing look. Indeed, the man on her body stiffened. After several breaths of silence, he stiffly propped himself up and moved away. His face, which had a devilish smile on it, instantly turned ashen. Good. Very good. This was little Luo. She knew how to trick him. Yiqing Luo, who had escaped from Dmo Xian's restraints, swiftly bent her waist and retreated a few steps away from him. She blinked her long curly eyelashes and said, "Xian, the misunderstanding has been explained. It's time to go to the West Lawn Square." He looked as innocent as he could be. Dmo Xian lowered his eyes and looked at the lower abdomen. The indescribable place. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sinister smile. The next moment, Yiqing Luo's body felt light as she fell into Dmo Xian's arms once again. She didn't even have time to react. In her eyes filled with ridicule, Dmo Xian's peerlessly handsome face was magnified. Xian, his aggressive gaze was scorching. That naked gaze seemed to be looking at her naked body. Suddenly, he bowed his head. He nibbled on her swollen lips. He bit down hard. Just like how she had bitten him. An obvious bite mark was left. Yiqing Luo cried out in pain as she raised her fist and hammered on his chest. The man released her slender waist at the right time. His half-squinted peach blossom eyes outlined a devilish charming arc. He laughed lightly as he gazed at Yiqing Luo's eyes, which were like glistening gems, its luster bright. His thin lips parted as he said word by word, "I'll owe you this time, next time. Extinguish the fire, I'll do it." Chapter 11:15. Fine. This was very beastly. Yiqing Luo admitted defeat. She blushed as she pushed Dmo Xian away and left the room without looking back. Dmo Xian lowered his head as his eyes were filled with adoration. He could only wait for the next time. He had just taken a step and was about to catch up with Yiqing Luo's footsteps to head to the West Continent with her to support the students of Devil class. His footsteps just stepped out of the room. The wind blew and brought along a trace of strange sound. His perceptive power was instantly released. At the same time, Yiqing Luo, who had just walked out of the room, flashed back to Dmo Xian's side. The blush on her face had long faded. Right now her expression was grave as her brows knitted tightly as she looked into Dmo Xian's eyes. From the other party's eyes, she confirmed her own perception. There were people. And there were many of them, and their profound grades were not low. The entire dormitory was filled with an extremely dangerous atmosphere. West Continent Public Square. The Heavenly Academy's interclass competition was still ongoing. The first round of the preliminary round was not for all the students to rush onto the arena. Instead, it was done by drawing lots. Each class would send out 10 people as a team, and according to the results of the drawing lots, the 10-people team would represent their class and compete against the other 10-people team. In other words, the 7 classes would be divided into 7 teams of 10 people. Through drawing lots to decide which class would be matched against which class. The winning team of 10 people would represent their class and enter the next round. In previous years, the Heavenly Academy's interclass competition was 6 classes and 6 teams, which were easy to allocate. This year, there was an addition of Devil class. 7 classes, 7 teams of 10 people. Which meant that there was an additional team which could not be allocated to an opponent. For this interclass competition, there were many external forces and representatives from various schools. In order to show his concern for the waste class, the director had instructed Yun Duan. Yun Duan represented the director to express preferential treatment for Devil class. The first round of drawing lots would be a break for Devil class. After the 6 classes had competed, the winning 3 teams of 10 people, plus Devil class, would draw lots for the showdown. The class which won the last 10 people team could skip the semi-finals and enter the finals. Because of this, today's competition was extremely important. Because the competition was divided into 3 days. Within these 3 days, they had to participate in the competition every day. How much profound energy would be depleted? Without the miraculous elixirs given by the family, the profound Jade Heart's energy could not be replenished. But, if he won today's match, he would directly enter the finals. This also meant that he did not need to participate in the semi-finals tomorrow. This also meant that the class that won today could recuperate and build up their strength, waiting for the finals on the 3rd day. After explaining the rules, Cloud was ready to start. Long Yunjan took a step forward at this moment. His azure blue eyes looked emotionlessly at Yun Duan. Elder Yun Duan, I'm Long Yunjan, the class monitor of the Devil class. On behalf of the Devil class, I sincerely thank the Dean and the Elders for their concern towards the Devil class. Her clear and cold voice spread out with profound energy. Cloud's announcement of the start of the match was swallowed back. He looked at Long Yunjan and frowned slightly. He didn't understand what the Devil class was trying to do. Yun Xiang's temper flared up as he said unhappily, since you're grateful, then be obedient and return to your Devil class's waiting area. Give up the arena to the class that's about to compete. Chapter 11:16. Once he said that, the entire audience was in an uproar. Many powerhouses started to complain about how Devil class did not know what's good for them. As for low profound class 1 and intermediate profound class 2, there were students who started to complain on the spot. The dean sympathizes with your trashy class, so that you won't have to waste the rare opportunity to participate in the interclass competition. He wants you to stay in this arena a little longer, so he specially gave you special treatment. You actually dare to refuse? Trash class is trash class, even their intelligence is so touching. The crowd was in an uproar. When Yun Duan heard that, he was stunned for a moment. Maybe he could not understand why Devil class would reject such a good treatment. Coincidentally, from the direction of intermediate profound class 2, a scornful voice came. What's there to guess? Just based on the looks of Devil class's trash, they are obviously afraid of receiving special treatment, but in the end, they will still be easily defeated, losing all their face. With that said, the students from each class nodded their heads in realization, expressing their agreement. Receiving special treatment, but still being defeated by a team that had gone through a competition, was utterly defeated. It was indeed quite embarrassing. Student Shangwan is still smart, seeing through the nature of Devil class with one look. Devil class coming to participate in the interclass competition is already a joke. Seeing them participate in the competition, it's simply making us laugh our teeth off. That's right, if this kind of preferential treatment was given to our class, the ones who could enter the finals today would definitely be our class. In the class, there were all kinds of complaints, all kinds of discussions, sparse. Suddenly, they heard Long Yunjan's ice-cold voice, easily suppressing the clamor. Then I'll give it to your class. A few light words, said without any emotion. That person was stunned, his face full of astonishment. After a while, he reacted. Long Yunjan was answering his own words. This person happened to be one of the students from low profound class 1. You're for real? Low profound class 1 naturally wanted this preferential treatment. Other than Devil class, their class was the worst class in the entire academy. If they had this preferential treatment, entering the semi-finals shouldn't be a problem. At least they wouldn't be eliminated in one match, and at least they could save their face. Long Yun-jan did not reply to that student. Instead, he raised his cold blue eyes and looked at Yun-duan indifferently. Elder Yun-duan, thank you for your kindness. I represent the Devil class and am willing to hand over the preferential treatment given by the academy to that class. His tone was cold and emotionless. However, his attitude was sincere and serious. Yun-duan looked at the dean. After seeing the dean nod his head slightly, he slowly turned his head. The purpose of the interclass competition is to understand the overall standard of each class and the individual strength of the students. Since this is the Devil class's own decision, the academy will naturally respect the Devil class's choice. This preferential treatment will be given to the low profound class 1. After the announcement, the other students had no objections. The competition had officially begun. The first round of drawing lots. Low profound class 2 versus War Devil class. The second round of drawing lots. Intermediate profound class 2 against high profound class 1. The third round of drawing lots. High profound class 2 versus intermediate class 1. Looking at the wooden stick in his hand, it matched the wooden stick in Devil class's hand. The students of low profound class 2 revealed a look of joy. Without low profound class 1, they would be at the bottom of the class. If they were to go against intermediate profound class or high profound class, they would definitely lose. But, the students of low profound class 2 looked at Devil class's side. Although they looked to be in high spirits, it was obvious that after standing for so long, the students were swaying. Chapter 11-17. Without Yi Qing Luo in the Devil class, they were simply a bunch of trash. They were already trash, and yesterday they were ambushed and suffered a serious injury. Today they forced themselves to participate in the competition, and it had only been half an hour and they couldn't even stand properly, yet they still wanted to participate in the competition. The students from the low profound class 2 all sneered in disdain. And in the low profound class 2, Tao Zi knitted her brows in worry. The news of Yi Fengyu being kidnapped in the dormitory was known to the entire school. And today, Yi Qing Luo also disappeared. Was she looking for Yi Fengyu? Or was she kidnapped like Yi Fengyu? This thought flashed past. She shook her head. Impossible. If Yi Qing Luo was really kidnapped, the students from Devil class would not be so calm in the competition. Yi Qing Luo, she should have gotten news of Yi Fengyu and rushed over early in the morning. Hopefully, Qing Luo would be safe and come back earlier. Low Profound Class 2's class monitor had already begun to pick 10 students to form a 10-man team. When passing by Tao Tao, the class monitor paused for a moment but still brushed past her. Although they knew that Tao Tao was the group leader of the 3000 Peach Blossom and her ability was considered above average in the Low Profound Class 2. But Tao Tao and Devil class's Yi Qing Luo's relationship seemed to be not bad. In order to avoid any accidents, the class monitor still didn't choose Tao Tao. The first round of the competition began. All the students returned to the waiting area. Long Yun-jan chose a few students who were below average in the Devil class. 8 boys and 2 girls. Ni Ruopan and Dan Baishi were among them. The moment the gong was sounded, the Low Profound Class 2's attack was already coming. The Devil class students panicked and screamed. Each of them were like ants on a hot pan, fleeing in all directions. There wasn't any intention to cooperate with their comrades. The entire arena was filled with the Low Profound Class 2 students chasing after them. The Devil class students covered their heads and fled. Wails and screams were heard incessantly. The scene looked extremely lively. It attracted a lot of people below and kept laughing. This situation lasted for about half an incense stick of time. The Low Profound Class 2 students were out of breath from the chase. Some students stopped, pointed at the escaping Devil class students and ridiculed in disdain, "A bunch of cowardly turtles. Don't run if you have the ability." Why are you running? Look at your cowards. Still want to participate in the competition? What a disgrace. I thought that with Yiqing Luo, you would be able to ascend to the heavens. Trash is trash. Watch us beat you bunch of trash into a pulp. However, the students of the devil class totally ignored their curses. He was still screaming at the top of his voice as he fled. Mocking laughter and screams filled the air. It was extremely lively. Gradually, the high-level profound practitioners who were spectating the battle noticed that something was wrong as they laughed and laughed. The awkwardness on the faces of the elders and the dean also faded away. Everyone's vision was placed on the devil class. Devil class's students were indeed in a sorry state as they screamed miserably. But as far as the eye could see, not a single one of the 10 devil class students had been hit by the attacks from low profound class 2. None of the students were hurt. On the other hand, the students of low profound class 2 were bursting with confidence, constantly chasing and releasing their profound chi. Gradually, he was exhausted. He also realized that he had used up too much Xian Qi. A few of the students from low profound class 2 kept the Xian Qi in their palms and blindly chased after the devil class students. Several times, they had already caught a devil class student who was running around randomly. They were about to defeat him with one palm strike. But inexplicably, they were collided with by another student. The cycle repeated. Chapter 11:18. A few low profound class 2 students ran until they were out of breath. Don't think that it was just the time it took to burn a stick of incense. But following the devil class students, they ran all over the arena. It was even more tiring than running 5 laps around the Heavenly Academy's public square. While running, they constantly circulated the power of their profound jade heart and released their profound chi in an attempt to restrain the devil class students. In this way, they had already overdrawn their physical strength. A low profound class 2 student stopped to rest. Following that, some students also stopped to rest. And some directly fell to the ground, panting heavily. Anyway, these devil class students were not able to stir up any waves. Other than being able to run, they had no other advantages. Let the other students catch up to the devil class students first. A few of the low profound class 2 students had the same thought. Immediately, no one stood up. On the arena, there was such a situation. 10 low profound class 2 students, 2 were sitting on the ground, 1 was lying on the ground and 1 was panting heavily with both hands on his knees. The other 6 students took heavy steps as they chased, panting and shouting, "Outflank! Outflank them! Outflank!" How could it be easy? The devil class students ran in all directions without any order. They had no way of determining which direction the 10 students from devil class were running towards. The arena was circular. No matter how they tried to outflank them, the devil class students would always have a chance to escape from their encirclement. The scene on the arena was comical. Below the arena, there was an uproar and laughter. What exactly are the devil class students trying to do? Instead of running away, they might as well surrender. That's right, it's so embarrassing. Other than running, they only know how to run. It's simply a waste of everyone's time. Devil class students participating in the interclass competition, it's a joke. Now that I've seen it, it's really a joke. The entire arena was filled with ridicule of the devil class's pathetic state. There were also people who clicked their tongues and said in astonishment, "But, to be honest, the devil class students are too good at running." They ran on the arena for the time it took to burn a stick of incense. They could still continue to run and scream in high spirits. This energy, compared to the panting low profound class 2 students, they were indeed too good at running. It was quickly drowned out by the mocking laughter. The students of the devil class are all a bunch of trash. Of course they have to be able to run, otherwise if they meet with danger, wouldn't they just die a violent death? I heard that at the back mountain of the dormitory yesterday, the devil class students were chased by more than 10 low-leveled magical beasts all over the mountain. Since they can run so fast, they must have been chased out. Ha ha ha, the ear-piercing mocking laughter rose and fell. However, in the area where they were waiting for the devil class, the dozens of youths did not seem to be able to hear the jeers around them. Their gazes were fixed on the arena without blinking. Looking at the tracks and movements of those 10 people, Yizichin felt a chill run down his spine. At this moment, the dozens of youths heard their class monitor's cold and indifferent voice say, "Now." The youths straightened their backs, widened their eyes, and watched even more seriously. In the arena, those devil class students who were originally running away suddenly stopped in their tracks at the same time. The 10 students looked at each other. As if by prior agreement, they rushed towards the low profound class 2 student who was chasing behind them. The few low profound class 2 students who were chasing did not expect that the devil class students would suddenly counterattack. Before he could react, Chapter 11:19. The position was coincidentally beside the few students who were resting on the ground. Among the devil class students, one of them shouted in a hoarse voice, "Beat them up. Beat them to death." Just as he finished his sentence, 10 devil class students all rushed towards the low profound class 2 students who were lying on the ground. One by one, the students raised their fists and madly punched the low profound class 2 students. Tearing, pulling, waving their fists. That was called messy. That was called crazy. The crowd, cursing in their hearts, black lines on their foreheads, cold sweat all over. One by one, they were speechless. The clamor, the ridicule were all stuck in their throats. This is too bad, isn't it? This scene, why did it look a little like a group of 5-year-old kids fighting over toys on the streets? The low profound class 2 students were suffering unspeakably, crying out in pain. They wanted to struggle, but did not even have the strength to stand up. They wanted to use their profound chi to force the devil class students to retreat. Before they could even take a breath, the devil class students' fists had already landed. After enduring for a full cup of tea's time, the low profound class 2 students finally could not endure this inhumane torture. They struggled in pain and shouted, "Concede." Until Yunduan rang the gong to announce the end of the first duel, announcing the devil class's victory. The devil class students then let go of the low profound class students. 1. The devil class students got a good start. Obtained the first victory. Unbelievable. There was no way to believe this was the truth. The devil class students actually defeated the low profound class 2 students. Although the method was a little despicable, a little clumsy. But at least, they won. And even forced the low profound class 2 to admit defeat. How is this a competition? The class monitor of low profound class 2's face was ashen. He stood up and said angrily. Looking at the countless mocking gazes around, the class monitor of low profound class 2 only felt his face burning. They actually lost to a waste class? Lost to a bunch of waste? And in front of all the powerhouses, all the representatives of the major academies, they were tortured to such a tragic state by a bunch of waste. As students of low profound class 2, how were they going to survive in the nirvana realm in the future? No matter where they went, they would be discussed by all the powerhouses. This would forever be their black history. Dean. We are not satisfied. This is not a competition at all. They cheated. The other students of low profound class 2 immediately stood up and echoed their class leader's words. Ni Roapan wiped her sweat, slowly stood up from the ground. A pair of beautiful eyes looked in the direction of low profound class 2, and smiled coquettishly. All is fair in war, understand? Dan Baishi nodded. On the battlefield, it's not only about absolute strength, but also brains. Your IQ is too low, and you blame us? The devil class students raised their eyebrows. You. The low profound class 2 student almost rushed into the ring. Low. Is there a rule that forbids running and ganging up? Ni Roapan could not help but laugh. If you can't win, run. That's the smart choice. Don't tell me that you, low profound class 2, are just going to stand there and let the opponent beat you. Her tone changed and she covered her mouth as she chuckled. I'm so sorry, standing there and letting the opponent hit us is the behavior of a fool. You people from low profound class 2 like to be fools, but we are not. Chapter 11:20. The students of low profound class 2 were completely disgraced. They could not accept their loss in this match. Not only because they lost to the devil class. The main reason was, they could not accept the method used by the devil class. Looking at the students of low profound class 2, they were furious, as though they wanted to rush up to the stage and tear them apart. Ni Ruopan snorted, why? Sore losers. Who are you calling sore losers? You guys used such a despicable method, even if you win, it's not glorious. The students of low profound class 2 immediately retorted. We are wise, not boorish people. Tong Ziqing, who was in the devil class's waiting area, said coldly, after losing the match, look for your own reasons. Blindly blaming others, it will make our devil class look down on the bearing of your low profound class 2. The low profound class 2 students were so deflated by this sentence that they couldn't say a word. Instantly their faces turned red as they gritted their teeth and stared at the devil class. Seeing that the situation had calmed down, Yun Duan then slowly said, just like what devil class said, the competition not only relies on strength, but also brains. Although devil class's first match was indeed an unfair win, but it also shows that devil class students have extremely meticulous observation skills. This is something that everyone should learn from. He did not say anything previously because he specially left the matter to the students to settle themselves. If their higher-ups made a move, even if they suppressed the students of low profound class 2, low profound class 2 would not be convinced. It would be better for devil class to personally let low profound class 2 be convinced. The first round of drawing lots, devil class wins, advance to the next round. Yin Duan continued to announce. On the side of devil class, the students immediately cheered, whistled and shouted the names of the 10 people on the stage. The 10 devil class students were originally in high spirits, looking as though they could fight with low profound class 2 for 300 rounds. After hearing the announcement, one by one their legs went limp and fell on the stage. It was as though they had accumulated too much energy and after a moment of relaxation, they lost all their strength. Yin Duan urged them for a long time before these 10 devil class students supported each other and with weak legs, they walked down the stage. The second round of the competition began. The second round of the competition was a standard profound Shi and martial arts competition. It was on a completely different level from the farce of the children just now. The spectators were still discussing about devil class's victory. At this moment, all of their attention was focused on the arena. Seeing that the situation had finally stabilized in the interclass competition, the few elders sitting on the main seats all heaved a sigh of relief. Yun Xiang subconsciously looked at the 4 elders who came from the headquarters not far away. One of the elders exclaimed, devil class's students actually got a good start, it's out of my expectations. I couldn't tell that this class, which was known as trash in the Heavenly Academy, would be so resourceful. An elder nodded his head, his tone was full of praise. After all, the Heavenly Academy has been selected as the best academy for the past few years. Ordinary people would not be able to pass the admission assessment to enter the Heavenly Academy. In the Heavenly Academy, they are known as the trash class, but walking on the path of Nirvana realm, those students are not ordinary people. These words received the approval of the other elders. Listening to the praises from the elders of the General Institute, Yun Xiang's expression turned ugly. He glanced at the dean and was about to speak. Chapter 11:21. His tone was indescribably kind and amiable. It was filled with the indulgence and helplessness of an elder. Yun Xiang was stunned. What was wrong with his director? He actually praised the devil class, praised Yiqing Luo. Wasn't the director especially vigilant against Yiqing Luo and hated her existence? How could it be? The next moment, the director looked towards the direction of the main elder. Supreme Mo has been teaching in the devil class for nearly 2 months. What do you think of student Ye's aptitude? Yun Xiang was stunned. Then he understood. The director purposely praised Yiqing Luo, but it was because of Yiqing Luo's topic, to strike up a conversation with the main elder. Heavenly Academy's interclass competition this time round had so many accidents. In front of other powerhouses and other academies' representatives, they had already lost the prestige of being the best academy, the first academy. This time round's best academy selection evaluation. Heavenly Academy no longer had the same confidence as in previous years. In order to get the best academy, they had to please the main academy's elders. When the 4 main elders heard that, they looked towards the direction of the director. Supreme Mo, who was sitting on the rightmost side, had a calm expression, without any fluctuation in his emotions. Hearing the director's question, he glanced sideways and replied indifferently, arrogant, presumptuous, don't know how to restrain yourself. The director's smile froze. Had he bootlicked the wrong person? Supreme Mo insisted on teaching in the devil class. It was obvious that he had a special relationship with Yiqing Luo. How could he give such an evaluation in front of the other elders? It's rare to hear Supreme Mo evaluating a student. Looks like this student Yi has given Supreme Mo a huge headache. One of the main elders stroked his white beard as he said. Supreme Mo retracted his gaze indifferently as his eyes fixed on the arena. Without enough ability, she always likes to charge into dangerous situations, causing the people around her to run around with her. Speaking to this point, he paused for a moment as his tone revealed a sliver of disdain. Teaching a class of students, using this kind of opportunistic method to obtain victory, isn't glorious. He could tell that Supreme Mo had a deep opinion towards Yiqing Luo. Faintly, there was some disgust. The director instantly felt awkward. Earlier, in order to please Supreme Mo, he praised Yiqing Luo, but now he was slapped hard on his face by Supreme Mo. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. The elder who was sitting beside Supreme Mo smiled and shook his head. Supreme Mo's words are wrong. There's a saying in devil class that's right: if they can't win, then run. If they can run, then that's their ability. This can only mean that on normal days, low profound class 2 doesn't have the corresponding training for their own body qualities. On the contrary, he felt that this piece of trash that everyone looked down on was from the devil class. That was interesting. Another head institute elder smiled and said, this move is indeed a little despicable, but on the battlefield, the process isn't important. What's important is the result. Devil class didn't cheat, didn't rely on external forces, just based on their own outstanding physique and with a little bit of cleverness. It's not too much. The dean wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and laughed dryly. He could not understand the sudden change in Supreme Mo. The dean simply shut his mouth and did not speak again. Everyone's attention was once again focused on the arena. The second match was between Intermediate Profound Class 2 and High Profound Class 1. The students of these two classes were not too far apart in strength. There were quite a number of students in Intermediate Profound Class 2 who had the innate talent to enter the High Profound class. As long as they performed outstandingly in the interclass competition this time, they would be able to win. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.